Yeah, so this is a fair use from the Act of 1976, disclaimer, section 107, on the critical and teaching and scholarship and educational purposes, research. I am not making any money off this. This is fair use, fair use. Yeah, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shai. All praises, all honor, and all glory unto Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai. Kahaloyim Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rachaha Kodash. I'd like to give double honor to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well and do well, to the elder apostles, bishops in Connecticut, the bishops, the preachers, the teachers, the evangelists, and the four winds, preaching in truth and sincerity, risking your lives more now than ever, the hopeful elect, Shalom, to the Israelite foreigners, who phenotype may look like another nation, but bloodline goes back to Israel through your father, and have come back to the fold. Shalom to you sisters, your chwatium, who listen and learn under your husband, which is your spiritual leader, with meekness and with silence. This your brother Aram Yehowadah with the lesson.
This woman reveals the reason behind the breakdown of the black community that no one wants to talk about.
Let's stop sugarcoating it. The U.S. government has been using black women as a tool against black men for decades. And if you think I'm lying, let's run the receipts. Welfare in the 60s and 70s, they told black women, we'll help you feed your babies, only if the man isn't in the house.
This is different because I actually lived through this.
That's the man in the house rule. And that's a policy that directly ripped families apart. Then came the war on drugs. They flooded the black communities with crack cocaine. They locked the black men up on mandatory minimums and 3-strike laws. And who was left to struggle raising entire families alone? Black women.
That's exactly why so many households were broken. Damn.
Meanwhile, they pushed out propaganda calling us strong and independent like that was empowering, when it really was isolation. And they painted black men as lazy, dangerous deadbeats. Divide and conquer. That was a plan. They knew the black family was a backbone of our strength, so they made sure to break it.
And that's why we need to rethink everything that we have learned and been taught about our own history within America.
And the sad part, too many of us bought into the narrative, but it's time to break it. It's time to wake up. It's time to call it what it really is. Genocide by policy.
Yeah, so this is 2nd Esdras chapter 16 verse 45. 2nd Esdras chapter 16 verse 45. And therefore they that labor in vain, right? So basically that's all it was, man. It was a vain labor for you women to buy into the women's liberation movement, right? Because you didn't have a thing against your man, because we didn't own nothing. We had no way of holding you back from education or voting or anything like that. But you sided with the one who could, and did. He's the one who held you back from certain educations and voting, right? We didn't have the power, but you sided with the enemy. So it was basically all in vain. As well as it's in vain for them to have done what they've done to us, though, to just bring us down to a lower state where we have no morals, no scruples, no integrity, brought us down to just gangbanging, drug dealing, and all sorts of madness, some spicy sassiness, right? From our men, and then the women being masculine. I mean, but it's really ultimate to no avail, because guess what? There's the Lord's raising up the elect. So it's basically they labor in vain. They spent thousands and millions and millions, probably basically trillions of dollars to keep us in the dark. But as you see, as that young, beautiful young sister, she's waking up, right? Because she didn't have the full truth, but she's waking up. But what she does have, she's carrying it on, right? She's carrying that torch. She's putting it out there. She's not just keeping it within. She's putting it out there. For strangers shall reap their fruits, and that's what happened ultimately by putting us in the lowest state, the ghettos, the vadios, the reservations, and putting us in such conditions where you couldn't have the man in the house, and then after not having the man in the house, you call him a deadbeat. Well, if he can't be in the house, how could you, what I mean? You're gonna, but that's the devil, throw a brick and hide the hand. I'm gonna say I'll help you, But then I'm gonna say he's a deadbeat dad. He's a nobody. He's this and that. He belongs in prison. He belongs in this. He does this, that. He's no good. And then the women goes, yeah, that lazy good for nothing didn't help me with. Meanwhile, like I said, the guy who does control whether you can go to work and have a job, education, being he controlled whether you can vote and have education. Guess what? Because he's the oppressor. He's the one who affects, through redlining, through certain jobs and loans, saying that a black man can't get a job or a loan or live in a certain neighborhood. See, but you bought into the madness, right? And being that, they flourished. They reaped what was meant to be ours when we had our own black communities. When we had, places like Rosewood and Black Wall Street, and there's so many other. There's lots of so-called what you would call quote unquote black and Native American and Mexican towns and things that actually were flourishing, but they wouldn't, because of racism and because of jealousy. They would come and bust everything up and put you in a position where you have to trust and rely in the government and spoil their goods, right? And they spoiled everything that we had. You know what I mean? Right? We used to have our own farms. Now you have to rely on the grocery store. Meanwhile, you go to the grocery store and the food has all sorts of worms and contaminants to it. Now you gotta come home and decontaminate your food, and then you got to drink a candida cleanse in order to be decent. When before you had your own cattle, you had your own things, but you trusted in this government and this thing so much that they spoiled, which means to rob their goods, right? Meaning your provision, right? And which that's going to happen more, right? Because this is talking about future prophecy, which also is about to come as far as when they send in these troops. When they send in this martial law, they're gonna take your goods and overthrow their houses, right? And that's kind of, I'm just using this as far as, like I said, the housing market. They overthrew your house. You had to live in certain communities, and when you did kind of break into a certain community, they had the thing called white flight, and they left, right? Like Compton was an all white community at one point in time, but Jake started moving in a little bit after little. Then basically white flight took place. A lot of them the Edomites left, and then that's where you got those developments of the Bloods and the Crips, right? Because it was supposed to be community revolution and progress, because the Edomites would come and terrorize the so-called black neighborhood, and so they had to come up with their own like a neighborhood watch, so to speak. The first original neighborhood watch, right? Which was a community revolution and progress. For the Crips, I don't know what the Blood stand for, but I know it was like a basically the same thing. They formed their own a community watch to protect themselves from the so-called white people. But then, like she said, they brought in the crack and the crack epidemic, and like I said, the low conditions, the despair when you're separated from your woman, right? It brings in certain conditions, right? It lowers the morale, right? Matter of fact, let's go to that real quick, because it lowers it lowers the morale of society when your women are out of control, right? Yeah. This is Leviticus chapter 19, verse 27. It says, "Ye shall not round the corners of your head," right? Neither shall thou mar the corners of your beard, right? In order for you to get a so-called job, you had to live up to the expectations of Esau Edom, right? He don't mind walking around smooth faced without a beard, right? So now you have to bow into the ways of your oppressor, what was it? To if you did want to so-called live a decent life, you have to join the military. It's a thing called what they call the haircut, high and tight. Right, that's where you round in the corners of your head and having this little little piece of hair at the top, right? Where Jake start turning into to flat tops and whatever they we it was crazy back in the day. I was young, so of course I did, because I had me a flat, because it was what was popular. Had no idea that it was like a heathenistic haircut, man. Had no idea, you know. But yeah, that goes into partially what breaking down the community. Now you got to have these type of things to fit into society. And it says, and ye shall not make any cuttings in your flesh for the dead, right? Which they start. Jake started going to college, and most of that type of thing is like was it the Greek fashions, the Greek sorority, basically, and they're marking themselves with different things, you know. And then like I said, of course, society breaks down, and your grandmama die, your mom die, and you tattoo your mom's name on you. You know, you start tattooing the tombstone with the birth date and the death date, and you start doing things according to this society, because then this society so-called made it cool. You know, you're like a biker gang, a tough guy. Now tough guys are insinuated with tattoos, right? Nor making any marks, right? Paint nor paint any marks upon you, right? With the tattoos, right? And now it's assimilated with the tough guy, and then that tough guy, Pavado, women start to love. They start liking the tough guy Pavado, you know. Upon you, I am the Lord, which this is a obvious violation of the Most High. But go to any city in America and count how many tattoo parlors you'll see. But this is a God-fearing country, right? Says do not prostitute thy daughter, right? By you obviously allowing the woman who's a child herself to be in a place and not have any supervision over her, but besides herself, besides just making sure you don't violate the thing by not having a man in the place. You can have a man over, he just can't stay there. So this gave them great ideas, you know. Oh wow! And then when they found out, oh, I was able to sucker this guy out of a couple of dollars, and then I suckered another guy out of a couple of dollars. Oh, now they just any male, they just that's my friend. These are my friends, right? Though you're committing adultery, and then you getting money out of them, that's exchange for cash. That's prostitution. So do not prostitute thy daughters to cause her to be a whore, right? But this society sets it up that way because it's give me. I need fast. I need cash fast. I need to have this. I need to have this certain type of lifestyle I need to be able to have, but then not really show people how to invest or keep a checkbook or a budget, right? You know, they scantily clad the women. You know, sooner or later the dresses became shorter and shorter and shorter, to then the point they wasn't wearing dresses. They started wearing pants, right? And then even that wasn't good enough for them. They're just out there. They cut off the pants and made the pants in what you call Daisy Dukes now, you know. So it's just, hey, do not prostitute thy daughters to cause her to be a whore, right? And this is the land of whoredom, right? That's why it's called Babylon, the mother of harlots, man, right? It's all sorts of adultery and whoredom that's here, right? Spiritually, emotionally, and definitely, you know, it's physically, you know. Lest the land, right? See, fall to whoredom, and that's what happened. The entire land has turned into whoredom. Now, go through anywhere in America, and you will see these women scantily clad, all the way from up to words. I've seen women. It is crazy. I mean, especially since you know when you finally the Lord wake you up and you get into the truth, and the Lord has you see things. Some stuff I would probably overlook, but now that you're in a thing and the Lord's keying your eyes, man, I've seen anywhere up to 60, maybe 70-year-old woman with a thing up into her thing, basically showing her camel toe, all the way to a little baby. They'll you know what I mean? So this land is completely turned into whoredom, right? And the land become full of wickedness, and now you got the mayors and the governors are all connected with with Pizza Gates and Epstein's list, and you got all these different officials, where you find out the police are raping women, using their badge and all this stuff to rape women. You've seen the police using their power and their authority to plant drugs on people, right? You're seeing the land is complete full of wickedness all the way, because it is, Scripture says as the leader, or as a leader, so are the people, right? So from the head top official all the way to the regular average day so-called Joe, right? Or in our case, the average Jake, is full of wickedness, man. This is Ecclesiasticus, also known as Sirach 10. I'm gonna start at 1. A wise judge will instruct his people, right? Because if you're gonna be a wise judge, you want to say that you're God and Bible believing nation. You should instruct them according to the Bible, according to the Scriptures, and the government, right? So, because you're gonna have a mind control, you want to control their mind and control it right, not wrong. Of a prudent man will order it, right? You're gonna order the land after the Scriptures, right? After real true judgment, right? But as the judge of the people is himself, right? So as the judge of the people is himself, so the people are going to be like the judge. So are also what? His officers, right? See, the police is full of wickedness. They're part of this. They done did some things that's very familiar, kind of like the Epstein list, right? They done some things, planted drugs, do all sorts of different things, They go on undercover, steal money, do all sorts of things. Man, just complete wickedness, man. Right? And these are the people you have to trust to govern you right, or to judge you right, right? When they're full of wickedness. And it says, and what manner of man the ruler of the city is, such are also them that dwell therein. So the land is full of wickedness, right? When you got the women galloping abroad as harlot, the Lord said, if you let this happen, the land turns into whoredom, the land turns into wickedness, man. Gangbanging, drug dealing. You had so many people in the Congress got caught, graping little children, getting caught with crack cocaine. So if this is the Congress, hey, so are the people, right? You know what I mean? So are them that dwell therein. You know what I mean? Yeah. Washington D.C. is a mess, man. It says an unwise king, right? Because Trump wants to be king, right? Which technically the president is a king. You're just the king of the providence where the elite allow you to so-called govern over or rule over, but you still got to listen to whatever the elite say, right? This is just a providence. You're just a president. I mean, Daniel was a president under the Persians, right? If I'm wrong, Salakia, I believe it was the Persians. I think, and it might be the Babylonians too. But yeah, it says an unwise king, what, destroyeth his people. So you just let the wickedness just continue on and on. Oh, yeah. By the way, you know what, woman? Hey, here's Section 8. You just don't let the man in, and you can do whatever you want. Nope, you don't gotta work. You don't gotta do anything. You just do whatever comes to your mind. And meanwhile, they feed them different magazines and different things. They feed them with the soap operas, where it's always constant drop on the soap opera, and then these women are stuck at home bored, and to make their life interesting, they start performing and doing the things that's on the soap opera. Now they're just full of drama, when those are things that the Bible said not to do. Be not a talebearer, right? Now they're gossiping. They're doing all these different things that you know what I mean? Adulterous. Be adulterous. Those are things that the Bible say not for you to do. But now it's just wide open. It's a free fall. You can just do whatever you want. right? Destroyed his people, but through the prudence of them which are in authority, the city shall be inhabited, right? And that's who's going to be in authority is the elect, starting with Yahushai, King David, the 12, and the 144,000, right? And it says, the power of the earth is in the hand of Yahweh, or the outer one, Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Kakadash, and in due time, right? So right now, we got to deal with the wickedness. We got to deal with everything that's going on, the oppression, the wickedness, our women out of control, right? It says, in due time will he set over it one that is profitable, which is, like I said, Yahushai, starting with Yahushai, King David, the 12, and 144,000. And that's going to be profitable to not just only to the nation of Israel, but also to the world, right? It says, and their children captives, for in captivity and famine shall they get children, right? So yeah, you're just depending on the government, man, for everything. But yeah, you're still been able to have children. Even though you're in the ghettos, the barrios, the reservations, you've still been able to have your children in this captivity, because this is captivity in itself. Because, like I said, at one point in time, we had our own farms. Now you have to depend on the government to get your food, right? And you still was able to have children and send them to school and do these other different things, right? It says, and they that occupy their merchandise, right, by robbery, right, taxing the hell out you, right? Everything's a tax. They're taxing everything out of you, and it's all by design, all by robbery. It says, and the more they deck their cities, right, and yeah, and what they do is they take the money and they put more money into the certain cities, city council, to build the roads, to build the certain infrastructure, but then most of it they don't. They put it in their own pockets, right? But sometimes they deck the city. I know, like here I'm in Arizona. I live in Arizona, and when they had the Super Bowl, because they figured you're gonna make a certain amount of revenue, they took that money before the Super Bowl even started. They took it and started building infrastructure, putting new stuff up, putting new things, things that the city didn't have at one point in time. They used that money to make the city look nice. They did a lot of I don't know, like a development, right? I'll just say it that way. Before, so that way people come, oh, this is a nice city. Oh, yeah, it looks nice. Give it a certain look. So yeah, they mean, and they deck the city. But you know who normally pays for that? The taxpayers. Like we had I think at the time it was called Bank One Ballpark, and of course it had numerous other names but basically for the Diamondbacks, the taxpayers pay for that. Even though that dude's a freaking billionaire, the taxpayers actually paid for the stadium, and not him. And he didn't have to, right? The taxpayers paid for it. So this dude, whoever's the owner of the baseball team, he's not a city council, he's not the mayor, he's not the governor, he has nothing to do with government at all. But somehow the taxpayers paid for the ballpark. See how they deck the city by overcharging you by robbery, right? I'm pretty sure that happens in other cities too. It can't be just here, right? It says, and it says their houses, their possessions, and their own persons, right? Because now they're coming to a time they're going to be it's going to be a police state, right? It's going to be a very police state. They're going to I know it's Hopsur, but that was the trial that they used against the Palestinians. But now it's Palantir or Palantir, right? And it says, and the more will they be angry with them in their sins, saith Yahweh. Right? So you're doing your thing, and which that's what they hate. You mean because Jake learned how to survive. You know what I mean? In where they're at. So you're in the ghettos, the vadios, the reservation. You're completely sinning. You learn how to survive, and these people hate that you're able to live a certain way, and you done made everything that they try to turn you into to not turn it to. Now you're wearing Jordans. You're wearing these different shoes and the Gucci, and you turn everything into fashion, everything into something. They're like, damn, we can't keep these people down. So we have to do something, right? They hate it, right? And then also what the Lord is angry with you. It says and it says the more will I be angry with them. That's the Lord. The Lord is angry with you. So the Lord is going to use the Edomite for his anger, because the Edomite is his sword, is his whooping stick against you, right? So the Lord, the more will I be angry with them for this sin, for their sin, saith Yahweh, for the outer one, Yahweh Bashem Awashai, like as, right? And that's basically what that young lady was. She's like as she's showing, like as a whore envieth a righteous and virtuous woman. So that young woman was a righteous, virtuous woman, and these women of today, they envy, they hate, right? Because she's standing up for what's right. She's like, wait a minute, we need to be able to change this thing instead of relying on the government. And you see how they did all this. It's basically, like she said, it's paper, it's writing laws, it's genocide against you, right? But these other women are they hate you, that you're becoming, you're awakening, right?
Come on my page, you black bitches to be specific. Come on my page, talk about how much you don't like my hair, talk about my teeth, talk about everything about me. I still show up looking the exact fucking same every time. Wanna know why? Because I'm not gay like you weird ass bitches. You bitches will sit up here and a man will say, oh, we don't like them lace fronts. We don't like them 6-ass inch nails that y'all wear. Y'all like, we don't care what a nigga like because I do it for me and my bitches. Can we be honest? Let's be honest, all right? You bitches is gay. Because otherwise, you'll be like, oh yeah, if a man's telling me he doesn't like these things, obviously I want to be married to a man, right? But no, you bitches want to be married to women. That's why you hype up what women say over what men say. Because there ain't no way a woman gonna talk me into wearing no straight lace front. Because why? If men are saying they like my hair curly, if men are saying, oh, we like natural women, why would I do the exact opposite of what I likes about me? It does not make sense. It makes no sense.
Case in point, they envy the righteous woman, right? The like as a whore envieth a righteous, a right, honest, and virtuous woman, right? They hate that. You know what I'm saying? They talk about man. She's absolutely gorgeous, man. Lord willing, you know, I need that right there in my life, right there. She's absolutely right. That's what a man loves, man. You know, she's cute, beautiful, nice brown skin, curly, beautiful hair. Hey, and she got the right mentality, right? As of right now, you know. This is which a lot of these women are starting to get there. They starting to realize, hey, they're gonna have to share a man. A lot of women are saying, hey, look, I'm with it. I'm with the program, because or else you're following behind. You're gonna fall to the wayside. With the rest of these women, right? so shall the righteousness. So shall righteousness hate iniquity. Hey, see, so the righteous woman, she's like, I hate you too. I hate you dumb bees too. You know what I mean? You know, when she shall decketh herself, right? But this time she's decking herself with what righteousness, right? With the right ways. Her hair's the right ways. Her things she doing, you're hating it, right? Which this absolutely, this goes into different dealing with the different philosophies, right? Being the philosophies of this world, right? Which is a harlot, that allows you to, like America, so this is a place where you can believe whatever religion you want to believe in, right? But then of course the scriptures is that righteous woman. You can only trust in the scriptures, right? That none should want her mate. You can't add another book or add this and that, not unless it enhances. But we don't deal with leaning on another understanding besides the scriptures. But you use this as far as even a actual woman who's righteous, right? Because as you can see, it's playing out in real time. It says, when she decketh herself and shall accuse her to her face, when he cometh that shall define him that diligently seeketh after every sin upon the earth. Right? Yeah, you're going to be accused before the Lord. And the Lord is going to judge. He's going to know your every sin because you did decide to get right. You're just looking to continue to be, what says a whore in the city, right? Was it So this is Amos chapter 7 verse 17. It says, therefore thus saith Yahweh, right? Yahweh Bahasham Yahweh Shah Bahasham Kakadash, thy wife shall be an harlot in the city, and that city is what? Babylon, right? America, right? The daughter of Babylon, right? And thy sons and thy daughters shall fall by the sword, and that's happening all the time on an everyday basis. And it wasn't as prevalent to hear about the women being killed, but hey, that's even starting to pick up, man. You hearing about a woman's found in the trash. She was found on the side of the highway. A woman's found on next to a ditch. You hear about these dudes getting gunned down in gang violence, and then of course of course the police, the police gun these jakes down, right? And this is all really the judgment of the Lord. Why? Because you let the woman be a harlot, and because that woman's a harlot in the city, the city has turned into whoredom, which allows the land to be full of wickedness, right? There's another scripture that talks about because blood touches blood, and that's you Jakes gangbang killing each other, and blood is touching blood, man. And it just leads for judgment of the Most High. That's why the Lord said he's gonna be angry. The more and more you deck yourself and you do all these different things and you just make money and this and that, and you think money is the answer to all the things, and it's not. That's just one of those inadvertent lies that Esau tell you, man. Money don't solve all things. I mean, I'm not even going to say it could get you happiness. It can give you some enjoyment for a moment, but for a season. But what they tell you back in the day, the same thing that make you laugh can make you cry, bro. And that's what's going to happen, man. The same thing that made you laugh is going to make you cry, right? You're gonna laugh now and die later, right? Not, not even cry. You're going to die, right? It's going to be a horrible death. You know what I mean? Some people might hear your cries, but hey, for the most part, hey, man. Well, I guess they did say that the cries shall be heard into the Red Sea. Hey, man, that's what's coming. You're saying, and it says, thy sons and daughters shall fall by the sword, and thy land shall be divided by line. Right? You got, because this, especially like America, it used to be, this used to be the land of Israel, right? Right? This was Israel's land. This Turtle Island. This belonged to Israel. But now it's divided by line. You got California, you got Arizona, you got Nevada, you got New York, Jersey, Boston, things like that. It's all divided. Massachusetts, things like that. You got it's all divided. You know what I mean? You got a whole place called North Carolina, but you got a North Carolina and a South Carolina. It's all divided, right? They moved the landmarks, right? It says, and thou shall die in a polluted land. Exactly. That's America, Babylon the Great, man. And saying it just leaves you to where you end up dying in this polluted land, where the land turns into wickedness, right? Matter of fact, the Lord said, this is not thy rest, right? For it should destroy you. It is polluted. It should destroy you with a sword destruction, right? That's this place, man. It's polluted. America, Babylon the Great, right? The daughter of Babylon. It's not good for you, which also spiritually known as Egypt, right? And Sodom, right? Right? Might as well throw in polluted land. It's also known as the polluted land. You know what I'm saying? And thou shalt die in a polluted land, and Israel shall surely, right? You so-called Black, Hispanic, and Canadian shall surely go into captivity forth from his land, right? So you already got kicked out of the land, and then you went into, well, some of you went from the land unto America, right? Thousands of years before, but then you got the Jakes that came from the west coast of Africa. So you got kicked from the land to Africa, and then brought from Africa to the America, and there's no other place for you to go except for to these concentration camps, to these re-educational camps, to get the micro C-hip, right? There's only one thing for you, to do left, is to either turn from your wicked ways and seek Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai, right? So that way you know not to get the karagma, you know not to get the karak, so that the Lord can defend you in a time of hunger, starvation, famine, right? Because that's the time that's coming. And these also concentration camps are coming. The Lord can defend you in that time, whether you have to be there 10 days and be beheaded, right? That you should be faithful unto death. That's where the Spirit will lead you and guide you. That I will be with you in the hour of temptation. Lord said, I'll make you be able to survive in the hour of temptation, right? So that's where you need to be at. But a lot of Jakes are gonna just fall into that category of just bowing down to the beast, right? So being that your woman's a harlot in the city, right? And that was basically like a future prophecy, right? And this is the Pharisee speaking to Yahweh Shai, right? Matthew chapter 19, verse 7. Then said they said unto him, the Pharisee speaking to Yahweh Shai, why did Moses then command to give a writing of divorcement and to put her away? See, and this was, this is in the time of Moses, which was maybe 6 to maybe 5 to 6,000 years ago, right? And women had to be a lot better 5 to 6,000 years ago, right? And this is Yahushua speaking more than 3,000, about 2,000 to 3,000 years ago, a little more than 2,000, which is probably almost about 3,000 years ago at this point, right? And this is Yahushua. So women 3,000 years ago were a lot better than today. So how much more today? And so Yahushua said unto them, Moses, because of the hardness of your heart. Yep, your hardness of your heart, your mind. Your minds are not right towards each other, right? So how much more in this time when the Lord knew that these certain things would start happening in this time, right? Matter of fact, this is Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 56. KJV, Deuteronomy 28:56. The tender and delicate woman among you, which would not adventure to set the sole of her foot on the ground for delicateness and tenderness, her eyes shall be what? Evil towards her husband. When Esau gives her the power to say, hey, you could just be in the house. You don't you could have the thing. We could take care of the kids. We'll give them free education, free lunch. We'll give them this. We'll do this. We'll do that. You just don't need to have the man there, right? Like that young sister was saying, it totally decimated the family nucleus, which in turn made the city full of whoredom and wickedness, man. And that's this place right here, America, Babylon the Great, right? Make it to a place where blood is touching blood. You gang banging, drug dealing, all sorts of things, right? Pimp, whoredom, same sex behaviors, all sorts of things. Just wickedness, complete wickedness, man. Man, woman, just complete wickedness, man. All out here, right? Right? You outside, yeah, that's being outside, right? Just out of the, yeah, you're was such a profane person, unless you're like a profane person that's Esau, outside of the temple. Everything you do is just outside of the temple, man. Just outside of what the Most High incorporated for you, right? Right. But instead, you're Esau incorporated in this corporation being America, right? And it says, yeah, her eyes should be evil towards her husband of her bosom, and towards her son, and towards her daughter, right? So let's go. I want to look up that word, adventure.
Strong's age 5254. Nasa.
See, Nasa, and say now it leaves the woman, instead of her trusting in her husband and doing the thing. It's basically anytime she do get a man, what is she doing? To test him, you're trying him to prove him, tempt him. Oh, you ain't no man, you ain't touch me, hit me, I'll call the police on you, right? All these different things. You're just tempting him to do a certain thing to show you have the power, you have the upper hand, right? All that you bragged about, you having the highest education, but Trump just removed that. You just being able to have a bachelor's ain't good enough. So most of you women who were bragging about this high education or this most of you just only had a bachelor's. Now prove that you're the most educated, right? I mean, it means nothing. As say, put to the proof, right? Or test, right? So now all you do is just try to test your man. You try to prove that you're the one who's in charge. Trying to prove who's in charge. You got to test them all the time. You know, prove, test, stray, adventure. Let's just look at a regular common definition of adventure, right? This is Merriam-Webster. Just tap into that one. This is adventure, Merriam-Webster. Adventure says an undertaking usually involving what a dangerous and unknown risk. See, and that's what so-called you Black, Hispanic, and Native Indians do. Now you like to take an unusual and dangerous risk. You know, that's why you end up liking the bad boys, the gangbangers, the drug dealers, right? Because those are unknown risk. That's a risk. I mean, you know it's dangerous. You know anything can happen. He may get put in jail. He may get beaten. Hey, he might even get kidnapped. It might even allow you to be inadvertently kidnapped. Something can happen. But that life, that type of guy, it turns you on, right? Because you don't know what kind of dangers lies around the corner. You know, that's why they like either drug dealers or cops, because they're damn near the same as the leader, as the ruler. So are the people. The ruler's a big drug dealer, so the cops are drug dealers. The regular citizens are drug dealers. So it's nothing but leaves you with this risk. You know, a dangerous, says an undertaking usually involving dangerous and unknown risk, right? So you don't know what's going to go on. You don't know how it's going to happen, but you just know you're attracted to this guy, right? You just throw yourself out there. The encounter of risk, yeah. So now, a woman back in the day, you know, like I said, you go 5,000 to 6,000 years ago, a woman was way better than a woman 2,000 years ago. Then a woman 2,000 years ago is definitely better. 2,000 to 3,000 years ago is definitely better than the woman of today, because the woman of today, there's no guidance, you know. Right, yeah. Even right there, yeah, it says an enterprise involving financial risk. You know, so is drug dealing not an enterprise, a financial risk, right? You know, most women ain't saying, "Hey, let me go." You know, even though stock market is like a financial risk, but women ain't jumping to go date a stock market. They jump in to date the tough guy, the gangbanger, the drug dealer, the police officer, right? Because it involves this, exchange of gunfire and fighting. You know, people like the whole cops and robbers thing, though it's hard to tell who the cops and the robbers are. But it's there. You know. Oh yeah, yeah. See, adventure and exotic dining, right? Women like expensive dining, right? Foods and clothes and expensive things. But who can afford those things? You gotta get somebody who take financial risk as far as drug dealing and all these different things. You know, and at one point in time there wasn't a woman like that. But as of course time goes, and you just let the woman do what she want to do. Like right here, Matthew chapter 19, verse 7 says, "They say unto him," which is talking about Yahushua, "Why did Moses then command to give a writing of divorcement to put her away?" Which means talking about the woman, right? And then if you think of Moses wrote that over what 5 to 6,000 years ago. This is um the what do you call it? The Pharisees speaking to Yahushua over 2,000 years ago, which is about 3,000 years now, and women were better 5,000 years ago, 6,000 years ago, more better of a woman than they were 2,000 years ago, obviously, and then 2,000 years ago to 3,000 years ago, they were a lot better than they are today, because today it's just, you know, they could just go freely. They could gad abroad, right? You know. So it says the so yeah, he said, which is Yahushua, said unto them, Moses, because of the hardness of your hearts, right? La'ab, which is your mind, your heart, right? The condition of your heart, because everything is conditional when it comes to people. It's not um people ain't thinking about, especially these days, you ain't thinking about building legacy, right? That's why it was a big thing that your father had to pick your husband. It was a big thing when marriage was a big thing, because marriage is also a business. And then as the scriptures tell you about, a good name is better than silver and gold. So you want to make sure that you married someone who had a reputable name within the community. You just didn't do whatever. You ain't looking for the drug dealer, the gangbanger, the drug dealer, just because he's cool, because he's thuggish ruggish bone, because he's Tupac, because he give you the thug passion, right? He can make you flip somersaults or whatever, in the bed, right? And that's all you basically care about, you know, that's where most women are at, you know. They'll care more about the sexual ability than the legacy. You know what I mean? You know, and the legacy is far more important. The children are far more important. You're supposed to be teaching the children the law, statutes, and commandments. Like that's why the women. What could we do in this truth? So many women trying to be prophets and trying to open their mouth. They're trying to teach. Well, if you want to teach the children. You could do all the prophesying. You could do all the thing teaching the children, because that's what's gonna be the next generation. That job, you completely looked over that job, being now you got a bunch of gang banging monsters. That's why your sons and your daughters shall die by the sword, right, in this polluted land, because you're not you didn't teach them, when you should. And that's crazy. That's the thing about a woman, is the time she should talk, she don't, and the time she should shut up, she don't, right? She's talking when she don't need to talk, and when it was time for her to talk, she didn't teach the children a damn thing. right? You could have done all the prophesying and teaching and doing everything you needed to do, teaching the children, but you didn't want to do that. Now you wants to be this headstrong one, and you wants to get out in the thing and throwing your fringes on a skirt and still try to teach. You know, hey, that's not how it works. You know, the Lord said that for a woman to be silent in the church, right? And that's when you should be silent. It says he said unto them, Moses, because of the hardness of your hearts, suffereth. Hey, it's not a thing that he wanted you to do. It wasn't a thing that the Most High wanted. It suffered you to put away your wives, but from the beginning it was not so. See, so it was never meant to be where you could just put away your wife, right? Just divorce her. Yeah. So this is Matthew chapter 19, verse 9. Continuing on, and it says, and I said unto you, which is still Yahushua speaking, who the world ignorantly calls JC, whosoever shall put away his wife, except it be for fornication, right? And then people get divorced for a number of different things. You know, it's ridiculous. You know. Matter of fact, you're getting divorced because the man's cheating when there's no such thing as a man cheating, right? A man can't cheat. A man can have multiple wives. It's the woman that commits adultery or fornication. The only way a man can commit adultery or fornication is if he has sex with another man's wife. But if he's having sex with a perfectly available woman, right? He could do so, right? You know, and it's really meant to be so you could build a legacy. Like when you go back to our forefathers, when they had multiple wives, you know, it was good. Just go back to Jacob, man. You don't even got to go all the way back. Just speak of Jacob, and as you see, it developed the 12 tribes. It's to build a legacy, right? And that legacy is Yasha'Allah, man. That legacy is who we are, man. Right? You know. I mean, what else would you want? See, a woman thinks that she can do. Oh well, if you could do, I could do that too. You know, well, that's not how it works, right? But that's why the Lord's going to bring it back to you know, things is going to go back to the ancient days real soon, right? So it says, and I said unto you, whosoever shall put away his wife, except it be for fornication, and shall marry another. See, and that's what happens every day in America. Every day, a woman posted on Facebook or whatever, and it's like a way to throw herself back out in the market. Like she's proud, newly divorced, ready to mingle, right? You say, hey, your women should be harlots in the city, man. That's just that, man, right? But the real woman, she's recognizing that she's gonna have to share her husband. A real woman is recognizing, hey, her husband is her Lord, right? That's just that. So if they don't get it, they're gonna get a lot of these women. Well, if you think about it, the bulk of Israel is women. So most of the ones that's gonna die are women. Women are gonna die real soon, right? Those that don't get this right, because that's just where the Lord is taking us. He's taking us back to ancient days when the stock market crashed, when there's no electricity, when everything goes back to the way the Lord meant it to be. You're gonna share a man, and you ain't gonna be nothing you can do about it. Either you do that or you die, right? You're gonna be fed to the wild animals, or to these wild ass niggas they about to let out of prison, right? You know, and a lot of them, hey, they don't tolerate any type of thing either. Right? They're gonna put you in your place, but even then, those men ain't gonna survive. The Lord is only gonna defend the elect. So you can go be with those other men, but they're not gonna be defended by the Lord. Only ones gonna be defended by the Lord are the men of the Lord, right? It says commit adultery, and whosoever marrieth her, which is put away, doeth commit adultery. See, and so then you just got a whole thing filled with adultery. A whole world, a land, right? What the Lord said, it's polluted and filled with wickedness. Just adultery on top of adultery on top of adultery, and it's just a game. It's a thing to be played with, right? But the Lord's raising up the righteous woman, and they're saying something. They're saying what needs to be said, man. Right?
Welcome back. Y'all, I got something for y'all today. Now, I know a lot of my goddesses aren't going to like this one, but it's all right. I'm just here to educate y'all. We have to stop trying to get men to be monogamous. Monogamous relationships are clearly not working out. If it's not working out, you keep doing the same thing over, that is insanity. Men are naturally polygamous by nature. You can look it up and do the research yourself. But I got my notes, because I'm always do the research for y'all. So let's get into why men are naturally polygamous by nature. So first, we have to acknowledge the fact that men produce millions of sperm and can ejaculate every day. Again, men produce millions of sperm a minute. They can ejaculate every single day. If it were naturally designed for men to be monogamous, the seminal production would cease during conception, or would only be present during the woman's ovulation period. While you're pregnant, a man still is producing millions of sperm per minute. Additionally, men continue to produce healthy sperm cells throughout their entire life, affording them to have children for a very extensive period. And we have to keep in mind, men were put on this planet to be fruitful and to multiply. They are supposed to want to, in structure and with order and divinity, not just getting random women pregnant and just, baby mom, baby dad. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm saying that men are naturally polygamous. They are made and they are naturally want to spread their seed and they want to multiply. Men naturally think about survival. They think about their offspring. They're thinking about their bloodline. The only way that your bloodline is going to survive is if you spread it amongst multiple women, if you're having multiple children. This is what our ancestors did. This is what they do in a lot of African tribes. How do you think tribes are still surviving? How do you think the survival of a tribe, of a union, is based on how well everybody is bonding? Sex is very important. Sex is just not for procreation. Sex is also for bonding. So we have to keep that in mind. And if you're choosing a man, you should want for his bloodline to continue on. So you should want to produce not only him with a child, but his mind. You should want to cultivate his mind and produce him as much as possible. So giving him another wife, a sister, that's only helping you. But women, however, not only have a limited number of eggs, women also undergo a phase in which they are no longer able to conceive children, further prompting the nature of polygamy. Because if you're at a point where you're no longer able to, supply him children, it would only make sense for you to have sisters, for there to be other women around that can supply children. This is about legacy. This is about the bloodline. And lastly, monogamy restricts men's ability to reproduce themselves due to the risk of childbirth and the lengthy duration of the typical 9-month pregnancy, ultimately hindering man's ability to build a nation and advance his legacy. Because again, while you're pregnant, your divine counterpart, your divine masculine, should be able to and should still be working on his legacy, should still be working on building the nation. Building the nation, we need children. Building the nation, like I said in my other videos, are about the children. So ladies, goddesses, men are divine masculine. A man that has knowledge of self, that knows himself, that knows his worth. This man is 9 times out of 10, he's going to be polygamous. He's going to attract multiple women. He's going to... Why do you think you're attracted to him? Why do you think you're attracted to them? There are more women than men. There are more women than men on this planet. And eventually, divine women are going to group up with a divine man, because it's not a lot of options. It's not a lot of options. There's absolutely nothing wrong with polygamy and building within your nation, building within your kingdom. Men are polygamous by nature. Men are not monogamous. Women, we are monogamous creatures. Now, not all women, but most women are monogamous creatures. Men are polygamous by nature, women. Stop trying to get them to be monogamous. They are not monogamous. That's why they cheat on y'all. That's why they lie. Men, be honest. Be honest. It's okay if you do not want to be with one woman for the rest of your life. Be honest. It's not okay for you to lie, though. Be honest. Let her know that you're polygamous. You're a god. You're a king. Step back into your divinity. Remember who you are. Monogamy is slavery. Polygamy is freedom. I love myself. Peace to the gods.